computer. Great. Pnawn da, good afternoon to you all. As I said earlier, there are a few people to join us. So once they join us, I'll let them in. Can I ask you a bit of housekeeping before we start? So today's session is being recorded and will be broadcast on Cwrd's YouTube channel. If you are not talking, can I ask you to please mute yourself so we can hear the person who's talking very more clearly. Os mae rhywun am holi gwestiwn yn Gymraeg, croeso chi holi yn Gymraeg neu yn Saesneg ar lafar neu yn y chat. So if you want to ask a question in Welsh, you're more than welcome to do so. And we'll take questions as they come. Is it, Rachel?
Yeah.
Yeah. And today's session is quite informal, so ni just carry on, we'll just crack on. So diolch fawr to Rachel am gytuno I fod yma pnawn 'ma. Thank you very Rachel for being here today, and it'd be nice to hear more about the National Lottery Community Fund.
Hi, good afternoon. Yeah, as Tulare mentioned, my name's Rachel Richards. I'm the Regional Funding Officer with the National Lottery Community Fund, and I cover Ceredigion. So I'm going to talk to you this afternoon about the sort of mainly the awards for all, but I'll just give you some background first to the fund itself. So the National Lottery raises around 30 million for good causes each week across the UK. Since the first draw in 1994, National Lottery players have raised more than 41 billion for good causes, supporting more than 565,000 projects in their communities. So we're one of 4 distributors set up to distribute the money raised by the National Lottery players, and we're responsible for distributing the biggest share of the money raised from ticket sales to support people and communities to thrive. So we have a presence across Wales at a very local level through our regional teams. We're putting people and communities centre stage in everything that we do. So that we're more responsive to the priorities of the communities we serve, there's a need for us then to get to know them better. So through this, we've got 3 regional teams in Wales. That helps us to be more connected and more visible, so we have a greater understanding of the people in the communities and what matters to them. And here in Ceredigion, we form part of the Mid and West Wales team. So in terms of the National Lottery funding, our goal is for the funding we distribute to help people and communities to thrive. We believe that the best way to do this is through a community-led approach. We want to help build on the strengths of individuals and communities to improve lives. And this means meaningfully involving the people that your project will benefit through the design, development and delivery of your project. Community-led means speaking to those who you're trying to work with, and we're quite flexible about how you do that. We're also realistic about how it looks depending on the size of your organisation. But we do need to see that the community has been involved in the project's development, and that we want to fund projects developed with people and not done for them. So what I mean by community involvement in projects is that we need to see that the people who will be benefiting from the projects being funded, that they have been involved in the design and development of the project, so that the idea then comes from the community and that they've been involved in developing that idea with the group making the application. And also that the community has a role in carrying out the project, maybe through volunteering or being part of a steering group, for example. So basically, you need to talk to the people in your community as you develop your project, and also we'd be asking you to provide evidence of this in an application. So there's many ways to get your community involved in your project, remembering as well that one size doesn't fit all. So some groups might send out questionnaires, some might run focus groups, others might get people together for a cup of tea and a chat. But the important thing is to get people involved in a way that means that you hear them. Every community is completely different, so we're flexible with how you talk to your community. We're also realistic as to how it looks in applications. But what's important is that we need to see that the community has been involved in the development of the project. And that's true for all of our community fund grant programmes. When we talk about community, it can be a geographical community, such as people who live in the same particular village or town. Or community can also mean a community of interest, which is a group of people who share the same characteristics or have been through similar experiences. such as the LGBTQ+ community or people from a certain ethnic background, for example. But it can also mean the Welsh community. There's lots of ways you can get the community involved. You should use the techniques that work best for you. Remember to try and reach different groups of people in your community, for example, children and young people, older people, the people that you know well, but it's also important that you reach out and talk to people that don't already use your services or access any of activities. Remember to ask open questions, giving people the opportunity to put ideas forward and to help shape your project. And we want to see that you have a good understanding and relationship with the people in your community, that you're aware of the priorities and the concerns of your community, and that your project is responsive to people's needs. So we have 3 main grant programs available, and these are always open with no deadlines to apply. And today we're going to concentrate on the National Lottery Awards for All grant that awards grants from £300 to £10,000. So the National Lottery Awards for All grant is our small and simple grant programme that you can apply for grants between £300 and £10,000. There's no deadline, as I mentioned, so you can put in an application at any time. This is our most popular grant programme that we have. Over 80% of our grants that we give out are under this award for programme of 10,000 or less to support community activity by small grassroots groups. They're project grants, so the application needs to be for a specific project with a start date and an end date. Unfortunately, under the priorities for this programme, we aren't able to fund core costs. So the application form is an online one available on our website, and it's a short and simple one. And I'll talk later about the application form itself. So once we've received your application, you will then accept our decision within 12 weeks. And you'll then have up to a year to spend the money and finish your project. So the Awards for All programme is open to all applications for projects that include a clear community element. The project must also meet at least one of the 3 main priorities, which are to improve the places and spaces that matter to communities, to bring people together and build strong relationships in and across communities, and to help more people to fulfill their potential by working to address issues at the earliest possible stage. So in addition to those 3 main priorities, we are also currently able to support projects that respond to the cost of living crisis. And in relation to this, we've got an additional priority, supporting people, communities and organisations that are facing increased demands and challenges as a direct result of the cost of living crisis. So generally, under our 3 main programme priorities, you can apply for up to a maximum of £10,000 in any 12-month period and only hold 1 Awards for All grant at any one time. But with the addition of the cost of living priority at the moment, groups and organisations can now apply for a second Awards for All grant of up to £10,000 within a 12-month period, and can hold then 2 grants at the same time, provided that one project is focused specifically in responding to the cost of living crisis, and the other one then meets at least 1 of the 3 main priorities. So I'm going to give you some example now of some projects that we have funded under Awards for All. The All-in Swimming Club in Ceredigion were awarded £2,200 to enable them to deliver weekly swimming club sessions for people with learning disabilities and difficulties over a 12-month period. So the swimming club provides the opportunity to improve both their physical and mental well-being through exercise and socialising. For some, it is one of the very few opportunities they have to socialise with friends, and for others, it's their only chance to exercise. So this is an example of a project that meets the priority of helping people to reach their potential by supporting them at the earliest possible stage. The application explained how they actively work with 2 local charities that support people with learning disabilities to identify the needs of the community, and that they also have regular contact with both participants and their families to identify areas of improvement and opportunities. And then they built this into developing the application. Another one is Havard Ward Garden Kick. They received £3,253 to create a community allotment and deliver a range of courses and volunteering opportunities for local people. And they're hoping to attract more users, with the garden having a greater role as a hub for community activity and produce. So this is an example of a project that meets the priority of bringing people together and building strong relationships in and across communities. The application explained how the idea for this project came from a review day where they were looking at how to address obstacles that people were encountering and finding daunting around planting and growing. They referred to having surveyed the local community from which they learned that there was a local interest in the courses. And the feedback included that they have more work to do in informing visitors about their own activities, such as creating display boards and a calendar showing cultivating and harvesting times. They also referred to having held open days and the number of people that attended. So here as well, we've got an example of a project that we have funded as a response to the cost of living crisis priority. It's a Gwynedd Citizens Advice project, and that's going to enable them to recruit a part-time member of staff so that they can increase opening hours and meet a growing demand for advice in the Dolgellau area. This project fits the cost of living priority, and the application explained that there was a growing demand for advice in the area, and there were also a number of new volunteers showing interest to help. But the short opening hours and lack of staff to support the volunteers prevented them from being able to increase provision to support the community. So this funding enabled them to increase hours and address that. And the project is also then an example of a project that supports people to reach their potential, as it also helps them prevent problems from getting worse. So the next slide explains the type of groups that are eligible to apply for the Awards for funding. So they must be a not-for-profit group. We can't accept applications from businesses or individuals. For this programme, there must be at least 2 adults on the committee who aren't related to each other. And you'll need to provide details of 2 people within the application. The group must have a constitution, and they must have a UK bank account in the group's name. And they must also be able to provide a copy of their latest accounts. Now, these accounts can be some that you do yourselves as a committee, or there might be some that have been prepared by an accountant. We're happy to accept either. So any questions at this stage then before I move on to look at the application process itself?
Yeah, Alex, on a question.
Diolch, thank you. Thank you. Brilliant so far. With regards to, you just mentioned there about the accounts. So as the Aran Valley Wellbeing Hub, we've been together for 1.5 years, and we have been keeping accounts, although we haven't used an accountant yet. And having just become a KIC, we haven't had a bank account ourselves yet, but we're in the process of setting that up, a business bank account. So as far as the format of the latest accounts, what sort of format would that be in?
It would just be a simple income and expenditure and balance sheet type of format that we'd be looking for, yeah.
Fantastic. Diolch yn fawr iawn.
Yeah.
My question is kind of related, because I was asking, if you're a new organisation, you wouldn't necessarily have a set of accounts. What will happen then?
What we then expect is a forecast, like a cash flow forecasted expenditure and income that you anticipate. But yeah, your income and expenditure at that point would be 0. But yeah, just a cash flow forecast for that point. Okay, I'll go through then a bit of the application form itself. So before completing the application form, you really need to make sure you've got a good understanding of the programme, that you thoroughly read the guidelines on our website. It's also a good idea to ask the committee to read them as well, if possible, and also ask the committee to read over the application, because someone from the committee would also need to be that second signature on the application. So once you're ready to make the application, you need to go onto our website, and we'll share the link for that in the chat at the end. If you haven't applied before, you will need to create a new account. So the top box here is what you will see on the website. And it's either apply online or continue with an online application if you've already started one and have one on the go. Once the account is created, you can then start completing the online form. However, also conscious that not everybody is digital and used to using online forms. So if you find it's better, we are also able to accept applications through a hard copy form. I'm happy to email that out to you or send a copy out if needed. We're also available to discuss your idea before you put your application in if you want to talk through with us as well beforehand. So in terms of the application itself, I've scrolled down here to the main sections of the application. These are the important parts really, and they're questions about the project itself. So it's these answers to these questions that will be assessed and scored, and they will then be discussed by the decision-making panel. So you need to make sure that you do include the information within these sections. So the first question is about the project idea, and that's an opportunity for you to explain what exactly you will be doing with the grant. So in this section, you should explain the project, describe what the activities are, how many activities will be delivered, who will benefit from the project, and what kind of positive change or impact it will have on people in the community. The second question there is about how is your project delivering on our funding priorities? So in this section, you should explain clearly which priority the project will achieve and how. It's important to explain fully how it meets the priority. For example, a project might aim to improve a place or space. So the application form should also show that the place or space is important to the community. One of the best ways to demonstrate that, again, is by using an open consultation process to gather the views of the community. Similarly, where a project aims to bring people together, the application should also demonstrate how it will build strong relationships within and across communities. And we would expect these relationships to last for a long time, and therefore events or activities that don't continue to engage with the community are unlikely to fully meet the priority. So for example, a series of activities over a period of time is going to be a stronger project than just a one-off event. By in and across communities, we also mean at least two communities that do not normally engage with each other. And to meet the priority of helping more people reach their potential by supporting them at the earliest possible stage, there should be a clear link between the issues preventing your beneficiaries from reaching their potential and how this project would then help to address those issues. And then the final question in this section is, how does your project involve your community? It's important here to refer to the consultation process that you've taken place with the community. So you need to explain the process that you undertook, how you carried out that consultation, and in particular, the number of people that were involved, and importantly, what the results of the consultation were. So you can also explain here how the community is going to be involved in the project as it is carried out. So for example, by completing regular questionnaires, by being closely involved in maybe carrying out project activities, or as I mentioned, by volunteering or sitting on the steering committee. And then from this section on, then the form goes on then to ask about the project costs. So in terms of the project costs, we do expect to see a breakdown of what the project costs are under headings. So remember to research the costs as much as possible, so you can give us a realistic figure as to what the costs entail. And I've included an example of costs on this slide. So you can include all the costs relating to delivering the actual project. So that this example includes things like instructor costs, a contribution to production, marketing and publicity costs, translation and administration, and travel costs. And it's this type of breakdown that we'd expect to see. So finally, I'd just like to mention as well that we are a bilingual organisation and we are able to offer a complete service in English or Welsh to our customers. So if you'd like to discuss your ideas or apply for a grant through the medium of Welsh or bilingually, we can help you. About half of our staff, around 25, are fluent Welsh speakers, and we've also got a few learning the language as well. So as funding officers, we're here to help. So I'm here, as I mentioned, to cover Ceredigion. So if there's anything at all you're not sure about or want to have a chat with me about your project idea or any questions about putting the application together, please do get in touch, and my details are there on the screen. And I'm happy for you to get in touch in Welsh or English as well. And then any questions? Alexander, do you have?
Yeah. Alex,
Thank you. Thanks. Actually, I was going to say I haven't got any questions. That was so clear and concise, and it's actually answered many of the questions that I had. And I'm feeling really excited and engaged, and I'm looking forward to beginning the process. So thank you. That's
great. Thank you very much.
I'm going to fill and ask a few questions then.
Yeah.
Rachel, if somebody, because it's up to £10,000, if an organisation applied for, say, half of it, say £5,000, can they go in during the same year to get another £5,000 from you?
Yeah, we'd accept another application for up to £5,000 again within the same 12 months. But you would need to have completed one project before you started another. So you might have a project, say, for £5,000 that lasted 8 months. So once that project was finished, you could then apply for another project for 4 months for up to £5,000 to bring it up to £10,000 together. Yeah, and that's under the main 3 priorities then, and the cost of living.
You said that you want to see how the community is involved, but you want people to explain how, when, how many people were involved. Do you expect, for example, that everyone in the village has responded, or a percentage? What do you say would be a reasonable amount of consultation?
We don't sort of set sort of specific guidance around what would be an ideal number, but we would expect it to be reflective of that community. So say, for example, if you had 600 people in the community and you only spoke to 10 people, obviously we'd be expecting you to do a little bit more than that. Generally, we go around about sort of 20% is good. It's difficult to say. It all depends on the size of the community and the type of project that you'd be looking to do, because it's not always relevant to everybody within that community.
And a question is related to that. For example, we might have held a coffee morning about 18 months ago and found people's opinions then. Would that still be relevant to this application, or is that too far back?
18 months is probably around our limit where we would say it's verging on the side of being a bit too old, just to make sure that the needs and issues of people are still relevant, particularly having come through COVID. Obviously, times have changed through COVID, and obviously with the cost of living crisis there at the moment. If it was sort of 12 to 18 months old, I think we'd be looking for a little bit more recent consultation now, just to ensure that the needs remain the same within that community, particularly with it maybe changing and having a different focus, maybe because of the cost of living crisis.
Are there any other questions? So, Rachel, I know some people think that if they applied through the medium of Welsh, that their applications will be assessed slower, maybe if your application is made in English. And I know that that's not true, but I just wanted to confirm that even if they applied in Welsh or English, that will be assessed in the same timeframe.
Yeah, we have Welsh-speaking funding officers working on all the programmes. So same as any other programme, all the applications are dealt with equally in the same time frame as and when they come in. The deadline is 12 weeks from the dates that they come in, and they're all treated equally. Yeah, so no difference.
Any other questions, or shall I just wrap it up? Well, diolch yn fawr to Rachel. Thank you, Rachel, and thank you, Adrian and Alex, for joining us. Unfortunately, yeah, the people booked on didn't, and I've just got an email from one of them now, weren't able to join us. But before I go, I just want to highlight a few things with you. Today's session is organised by CAFO, and we are part of Third Sector Support Wales, which is a network of county voluntary councils across Wales. And we've also got a Knowledge Hub website with tons of resources and courses on there. So please have a look. I'll share it later on in chat now. But also we have another Meet the Funder session on the 10th of May with the Community Foundation Wales, and that's on the Dr Dewi Davies Endowment Fund. Now, this is a very specific fund for the south of Ceredigion, so it doesn't include Pennant. Sorry, Alex, and sorry, Adrian, I'm not sure where you come from. So if you're located from Llawennog, Llanybydder, Llawennog, Llandysul, Cenarth, Cardigan area, and then up to Bryn Hofrant, then you're included in this grant scheme. So that's on the 10th of May. And I also want to highlight that our volunteer awards is currently open for nominations, and that nomination closes this weekend. So if you want to nominate a volunteer that's making a big contribution to your local community, or a team of volunteers, young person, trustee, or a volunteer coordinator, please get your nominations in. So thank you very much again for joining us, and hopefully you found today's session of value. You can contact Rachel or myself anytime, and thank you once again. And before you join, I'll share the links in chat so you'll have them before you leave, but I'll stop the recording.